Station 51, engine 27, engine 32, truck 105.
You're listening to The Fire Break with Steve Wolf. Hello, Steve Wolf here. Welcome to The Fire Break. As you know, The Fire Break is sponsored by Team Wildfire, developing innovative new technologies for wildfire suppression, which is going to be more important as the world goes forward. I'm pretty damn sure. I have got super guest today. I've got Leo Zlimen here, and Leo is the founder and CEO of Ladris, which is the company that has set the goal of having no people die during natural disasters, which is a lofty goal, but a worthwhile one. And, you know, who aspires towards an unlofty goal? So, Leo, welcome to the Fire Break. How are you today?
Good. Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much for having us here. I really appreciate it.
You bet. So tell me about Ladris. How did you get started? And how did you attempt such an ambitious goal?
Yeah. So I think in thinking about, how we started Ladris and where we come from, I always like to tell the story of where I'm from, which is this little town in California that is called, confusingly, Nevada City. You may be familiar with it.
Nevada City, yes.
Nevada City. Yeah. Nevada City, Nevada County in the state of California. And what's interesting about that place, I know it confuses people all the time, but what's interesting about it is it's, honestly close enough to a lot of big cities, right? It's right up by Tahoe. It's kind of 30 minutes west of Truckee on Highway 20. So you have to get off 80, go on 20, and then get back on 80. And I like to say that it's close enough to a lot of big cities that people choose to move up there, to get away from it all, to get kind of more in nature. But it's far enough away that you have to choose. Nobody accidentally ends up in Nevada City. They all choose to be there. And so it produces kind of, I think, this culture of people that it's a little bit of a gold rush town. It's a bit of a kind of Wild West cowboy town. And in that sense, I think a lot of the people from there sort of believe that they can do big things. And, I got to grow up with this guy named Bowen Kyle. He became one of my very good friends when I was younger, and we became good friends in high school. And we both happened to get into Berkeley. We had a great time in Berkeley. It's where we started the company. And then when we moved back here, the wildfire problem was really at that point on the national stage, because we were in school from, I think, 2017 through 2021. And so you had, the Sonoma fires in Paradise and all of those kind of big events that really thrust this issue into the public mind in a way that it hadn't been before. And we were just surprised, frankly, at how much more work there was still to be done, right, in that space. I think we think of evacuations, for example, as this like very rare event that will never happen to us. It happens somewhere else. But the problem is it happens somewhere else every year and more places every year, and probably eventually will happen to all of us at some point. And on that day,
Sure.
you really want to make sure you live. So it's a super serious.
And to some people, multiple times in their lifetime.
Right. Yeah. I know people. Exactly. Yeah. I know people that were in both Paradise and the LA fires. I mean, and every time I think there's the same narrative, which is, how could this happen? How could we let this happen? But really, like anything else, the more you prepare for it in advance, the less likely it is to actually be bad when it occurs. And it requires a new way of doing emergency management, a new way of doing all this stuff. So we're only one part of that. We provide technology and we provide people and processes to help our customers solve this problem, but it's a big problem and it will take years to solve. And that's just the work, basically.
And when you say solve, what aspect of it are you talking about? Stopping fires from happening, stopping fires from being destructive, making more efficient and faster evacuations, hardening evacuation routes so people don't die while they're evacuating. Like what's the part? It's a huge puzzle. And, which part has your name on it?
Yeah, I think eventually our hope is that we can make a positive impact in all of those pieces. Right now, what we focus on primarily is the pre-planning and the logistics and improving the tactical decisions around response as well. So, for example, just to kind of make it really specific, in evacuations, you're really worried about time. Like time is your big resource. Because if you think about it today, Steve, if you get in your car today, there's no evacuation happening and you drive somewhere and you give yourself 30 minutes. So you're going to start 0 minutes and you say, I got 30 minutes to go as far as I can. There is some maximum distance that you can get to from where you are right now. And the reality is during a fire, that distance is usually way shorter. And so there is like only so far out that you can get. And so what Ladris is committed to doing is giving you as much time as possible, both to make that decision to leave if you want to, and then also if you choose to leave.
Even if you don't want to, I should point out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's, and I think that's part of it, right? It's like in our society and in the way our system of government, it's a choice, right? Everybody makes their own choices, and we think that's great. We think that they should be informed and they should have all the tools they need to make the safest possible decision for themselves and their families. And it really comes down to giving that time back. So,
okay, how do you do it?
Yeah, for us with Ladris, it's about modeling that time, right? Like,
okay,
people don't know how long it takes to evacuate. I mean, like wherever you live today, it's like, does it take me an hour? Does it take me 3 hours? What if this changes? What if that changes? And it's like, that is the only answer that matters for evacuating, is how long does it take? It's the entire problem. The general solution is how long does it take? So Ladris software answers that question under billions of different scenarios, and it helps the people in charge of the situation as well as the people in it figure out how much time they have and how to give themselves more time.
Okay. So how do you give yourself more time? I assume once the congestion hits, there is no buying time at that point. You're stuck in traffic or burning trees have blocked your exit. So the only place it seems you could gain time would be starting earlier.
Yeah, leave early. And some of it's not up to you either, right? Some of it's, your first responders and your folks protecting your community. They gotta call the orders at the right times, in the right order, in the right ways, right? All of those tactical decisions matter. And then the education matters. I mean, frankly, if you have a community that has not been told, hey, please leave when we tell you to leave, and they don't see the consequences of what that looks like, they're not going to know what the consequence of that is. So I think that's what makes evacuation so challenging, is people look at it and, honest to God, Steve, they think this problem can't be solved. Like, we can't possibly control all these variables so that nobody dies. And we're not asking to control all these variables. What we're asking to do is address them before the evacuation happens, because then you can control them. When it's all chaos in the moment, it's very difficult, but there is stuff that we can do. And in communities that we protect, no one's died in an evacuation. I mean, the results are out there. It's possible to do this.
And welcome back from our first ever commercial break, courtesy of malfunctioning internet. We take this thing for granted. We complain when it doesn't work, but boy, I grew up when it didn't exist, and it should be appreciated even when it's faltering. We've got Leo Zlimen with Ladris still with us, or should I say once again with us. So Leo, you were saying that you were pleased that nobody in one of your subscribed communities had died yet. And I was saying, well, maybe that's not the best metric, because people haven't died in non-Ladris communities as well. And eventually someone will die in one of your communities. That's just, because you can only control so much. But it looks like you're building a really good simulation so that we could learn about what's likely to cause the hiccups in an evacuation. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. To frame it correctly, I think that
yes, please.
People think of this as like, okay, it's a simulation. What do I do with that? And the reality is, like, you need to run your emergency management program according to what we know will happen if you don't do certain things. For people living in those communities,
okay,
if I know that this one particular road here is the key to me living or dying in a disaster, I would probably support a special tax measure to make sure that that road is good. And I will, if it's effectively marketed and socialized. It's a complicated process, right? So part of the big problem with evacuations is that today, no one single person owns that responsibility. Sure, law enforcement calls evacuations, but fire has a role to play. Public works has a role to play. Emergency management has a huge role to play. The elected officials have a role to play. The CEO's office has a role to play. And all of those entities have to be thinking about this in advance all of the time. It's not a niche issue. It's not a random issue. It is the general solution to the life safety problem, which is when something bad happens, you keep people where they are or you move them. And when you move them, it's called evacuating. So it would make sense that this is something that is not some abstract simulation or some sort of abstract concept. it was real. It will happen to you too, and you want to be ready when that happens, right? It's a super grounded concept. I think people get
Right.
a lot of the time confused by, oh, like what can I do with this information? It's like, well, build the world you want and then make it that way, right? That's what we do every day. That's what we can do for communities. That's what our citizens want us to do in those communities. It's the number one issue for most people, I'd say, in wildfire threatened areas is how do I get out? You know?
Right. And yeah. And I mean, shelter in place sometimes is an option if your property has been properly prepared and you have a couple 100 feet of concrete around you or whatever, you decide is a non-fuel environment. Yeah, but for most people, evacuation is going to be the right choice. So tell me about the business model. How do you work with communities?
Yeah, so we work with them by providing our software to their local government agencies. So we work with their emergency management departments, their law enforcement teams, and their fire departments, fire agencies to make sure that their plans and their tactics are informed by this data and by these what if scenarios. So think of it like any sort of training exercise. If you haven't seen it before, it's very unlikely that you're going to get it right on the first bounce. If you've seen as a first responder what every potential evacuation might look like, and you can couple that with your own intuition about your own area and what that, how that goes, the dynamics there, you probably stand a lot better chance of successfully executing on the evacuation when it happens. And it's the type of thing that I think is a force multiplier for first responders as well. So that's how they use it today. We provide that as software as a service. They can subscribe to it. We also provide, staff that are former emergency managers, experts in the field to do that training, work with them, build their systems so that they're ready for those events, and then help their public understand, hey, we've really looked at this 1,000 different ways, and when it goes down, this is what it's going to look like, and we need you to be ready for this scenario. And we work with them to do that too.
I see. What about some of the other factors that influence the speed with which an evacuation might be required, such as the speed of the fire front or the creation of fire breaks? Do these things go into the modeling? So you can say, if we did a break here, people would have 30 minutes. If we did a break there, they'd have 60 minutes.
Exactly. That's exactly it. How fast is the fire moving? What kind of fuel breaks did we do in advance? What kind of traffic control are we doing? How many resources do we have, right? Like a lot of the time, these agencies are really understaffed, really underfunded. And a great way to make an argument for more resources is showing the impact of that personnel on the situation, which you can also look at in our system.
I see. When you came up with the idea for this and you had something that was, an MVP or a working product and you were ready to go to market, what were the special challenges that came with running a B2G versus a B2B or a B2C? Like how complex was it to get to the check?
Yeah, well, I think that people often underestimate, from outside, if you're coming from a B2B world or a B2C world, they often underestimate the nuances of the government sales cycle and the go-to-market motion in government. It's very sort of idiosyncratic. It's like very specialized. And, that took some learning. We think that, honestly, one of our hallmarks is that we're able to rapidly deliver these solutions to governments. So, our cycle times are on par with a lot of B2B companies. It's very much an enterprise sales motion, right? Like you're working very closely with these people that you're going to keep working with after the deal's done. And that, I think, is what leads to such strong relationships there, and then continued support and continued service from us to them. So it's really just about relationships like any enterprise sales motion. And we've certainly, we're really happy with that. We think our government customers, some of the best customers you can possibly have out there, and they do great work and they care, right? I mean, they're willing to invest in being forward thinking and in looking at challenges and in looking at what might happen. And that's a brave thing to do. And we really admire that about them.
So your non-customers are the people who aren't doing that. And what are the obstacles that you run across in in the sales process? Why would people not do it? What are some of the reasons that they cite?
I think it comes back to kind of what we discussed at the beginning, which is it's a really, really hard job that these people have. Like, make no mistake, like our emergency managers, firefighters, law enforcement, it's the Lord's work that they're doing. It's really hard work. And I think the mentality, right, in first response is we're going to fix the problem. It's going to get solved because that's what we do. And the problem with evacuations is it's this extremely nuanced, sometimes abstract, multi-year process that involves like 20 different agencies and all this coordination. And the systems, frankly, are not built for that right now. And so these brave people, our customers and our future customers, are the ones who are willing to step into that role and say, hey, the systems haven't been built for me, but I'm going to bring them all together. I'm going to connect them. I'm going to build those relationships with the other agencies. I'm going to make sure all of that coordination happens. And it's nowhere in their job description, right? But it's what they end up having to do. And I think just different places are ready for that at different times. And it's a really big step that we see people making. And that's usually where the resistance comes from. I don't think it's any one particular this or that or this issue. It's this fact that this problem has never been solved. There's no playbook for it. There's no guideline for it. And, it requires a lot of stars to align at the same time for people to be empowered to do that and to solve it.
And every once in a while they align properly and you get a customer.
That's right.
I see. So what are the current challenges in the software itself? I'm sure that your customers might look at it and say, this is better than anything we could have imagined. And you look at it and say, I imagined 100 times more and in 100 times faster, and that you have things that you want to see in it, that aren't there. Where do you see is the future evolution of what this software does?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, and I think a lot of our customers would agree with this next part. Really, it's about being able to enhance and expand what we as people already do, right? Like, in my head, I can't calculate for you a billion scenarios. Some people can, but I'm not that guy. What I can do is I can say, hey, here's where we want to focus our work first. What would that look like if we did this? Now, help me use technology to imagine what that world would look like. And then I can decide for myself whether that's something I want to pursue or not. But a lot of that is how you design that problem, right? There's a lot of problem design in there. It's like, do we want to focus on this community or that community? If I'm an elected official, right? I represent one of those communities, so I want to make sure they both get the oxygen. And so what would be really helpful and where we want to see the technology go is right now you run the simulations. You, Steve, the emergency manager, you go in, you run simulations. Tomorrow, this system runs those for you. And it helps you, even before you've asked the question, build and design the better world that you hope to have. And it does it way faster than you could by running each simulation by yourself. So I think that that's kind of the phase change we see. It's going from, we went, I think, with the first iteration from static plans to dynamic real-time models. And now we want to go from dynamic real-time models to zero click, I call it, like totally hands-off. You don't have to click a button. It detects the fire. It figures out the situation for you. And it tells you, look, this is the plan with a 90% probability of success. You might consider that as you go about your business. That's where we see it going.
Okay. So one of the shortcomings I've seen in the tech sector, and in this case, I'm using tech sector as software, not as hardware, is this assumption that if we give officials or incident management teams more data, they'll know what to do with it. Right. And this is so we bombard them with satellite images and sensor data and cameras and whatnot, under the presumption that if they have enough data about the fire, then it's a given that they'll be able to put it out. And I disagree with that. I think that as the complexity of the fire grows, in general, in size and scope, in threatened assets, the complexity of the response also grows multifold. So it sounds like you're addressing that in this software, not by saying, if this, if that, if this, now you figure it out. You're saying we've already run the gazillion, sims of how this might go down. And here's the plan with your highest probability of success. All you have to do is sign off and implement it now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's what we hope to build.
So what are the obstacles to that? Time and money?
Yeah, I was going to say, you got speed, cost, quality, right? Those kind of trade-offs,
right,
and competing priorities. I mean,
right,
even if you're looking, there's other parts of the problem too, beyond just the kind of like techno visionary part of it, right? There's the people part. So one of the things that you're going to see, not to give too much away, but in the next couple of weeks here, we should be making some announcements on the people side. It's really important that we bring the very best minds from the fire service and from law enforcement into the problem with our customers, right? I think that like I said, these processes don't exist for like a unified approach to the problem. And so we have to build them, and we're going to build them obviously only in partnership with our customers, with the people that really deeply understand this problem. And that requires this translation layer. So it's a very people-enabled business, government, very people-enabled business. And that's got to evolve too, right? Like how we staff those positions, how many of them we have. I love to see, obviously, the expansion in some of the counties in the Bay Area where their EM teams are getting way bigger. There's way more resources available, and you can see that reaction where measurably they start getting safer, right? Their evacuation times start getting lower. Their wildfire spread rates start getting lower, right? These types of things are measurable, and it comes from investing those resources. And then the third part is, of course, building the systems, right? That's the hardest part. The technology is actually relatively easy. It's a roadmap with enough time and money, you can do it. It's really the people more than anything else, and the processes those people build. So that's what we're committed to doing with our customers now and in the future.
And it's the people on both sides, right? It's the recruits that you bring into the organization that gives your organization the mental strength it needs to do this. And then on the other side, on the actual evacuations, it's the people who are evacuating that are, probably the trickiest part to figure out what they're going to do and when they're going to do it.
Absolutely.
And how they're going to do it.
That's
so
exactly.
It sounds like educating the evacuees is almost the ignored part, because you'll see, I'm sure millions and millions of dollars go into the software of how you simulate these things and how the emergency managers work. And yet the public, the people who actually have to do the evacuation, all they're told is ready, set, go, and have a go bag ready with a week of medicine. Like that is ridiculously poor education.
Completely agree. Yeah.
It's a really challenging problem. Really challenging problem.
So how do you help the evacuees prepare for the evacuation, or the pre-evacuees, I guess? How do you prepare the residents to evacuate in a more sophisticated way than the way it's being done now?
Yeah, so I think the first thing you do is you talk about it. So even like what we're doing right here, like this podcast, constantly talking about the issue, because if you think about how to make the problem simpler for everybody, imagine an evacuation with like 100,000 little tiny dots all trying to get out. If every one of those little dots, which was a person in their car, had that same view into the problem, they might think about it really differently. They might think, wow, this is that kind of big issue that affects not just me, but everybody around me, and I need to leave earlier. I need to be more prepared. So personally, I think the answer is always transparency. I think it's visibility for residents into the scale of the problem. And it takes a really good marketing campaign to do that right. You have to be bold, and you have to be precise, and you have to make sure you don't mislead them. I mean, I think first responders have often very valid concerns about oversharing sometimes with the public, so as not to give them information that causes them to make the wrong decision tragically in an evacuation, right? If the fire starts somewhere other than where the preparatory material said, then what do you do, right? All these types of, again, what ifs. And I think in the end, without giving too much away, I think that, it's probably going to be a problem that will have that visibility and transparency into each individual person as well. But it starts with their trusted experts at the local government and then flows from there. So community education, we got some customers that they'll wheel around the evacuation models and the fire models and the flood models, and they'll say, guys, this is you. If this happens, this is us, we're over here. This is you. This is the fire burning over your area. please listen to us. When we have the tax measure come out, please support it. Like, we're doing this for you. Help us, right? So that visual education piece, I think, is the best way to start that conversation.
I see. And now what about the psychology of evacuation? Do you go into that at all? Because I think that depending on which side of the table you're on, it's a different problem, right? If you're the emergency manager, or the city coordinator, the fire marshal, like, your goal is get the most people out that you can safely as quickly as possible. If you're the evacuator, you don't really, your concern is, how do I get me and my family out of here? Right. I'm not trying to get the most people. I'm trying to get my kids out.
Yeah.
And the different motivations that they're coming from might lead to different plans.
They could. And the nice thing is, the plan, like you pointed out at the start, the plan that solves for both of those at the same time is leave early. You will be more likely to get out, and has the nice side effect of all of your neighbors will also be more likely to get out because you left early. And if they left early too, if they all did that early enough, eventually everyone would get out, right? So I think you're absolutely right. The psychology piece is really tricky. There are groups of people, and I know many of them, a lot of them are my good friends, that they will not leave until they see the flames, the actual flames, not the smoke, not the wind, but the fire at the edge of the property. And then maybe they will leave. And that's fair, and it's their right. It's their decision. We respect that, and we support that. And at the same time, I think more information is better, right? So think of it from an education standpoint. Again, like, just because people are educated doesn't mean we know what they're going to do, but they have more options and they have more upward mobility because they got educated. And that's what these types of tools can do for communities to make better decisions that add up to a better outcome for everybody, for both the first responder and you as an individual.
Right. Wow. So it sounds like you're hinting that you're bringing some new talent on board.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm very excited for what's coming in the next couple of months.
So, yeah. And I don't know the who or the what, but I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Because the number of people, that have great prominence and respect, it's a pretty small community.
Absolutely.
I could probably I could probably guess, from the 10 people that you'd be looking at or something. So that's really exciting. And I'm really also excited to see, the transition as people go from taking their entire working career in public service, and then they transfer it into public service provided through private enterprise.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
and I think you probably get a tremendous benefit.
Definitely. I mean, it's a real partnership, honestly. You cannot do this work without the support of people that have been on sort of both sides of the fence there. And one of the interesting things about the work that we get to do is that it sits right at the intersection of sort of all the major things that are happening today, right? It's right at the intersection of the changing environment, changing disaster risk profiles, and all the building economic development that we're doing. And all of the changing demographics, all of that stuff, right? It all sits right there at the heart of it because all of these things influence public safety. And I think the only way you're going to navigate a landscape that complicated is with good, honest people from all walks of life that are going to sit down and try to figure it out in good faith. And that's what, those are the types of people we try to attract to our team who want to do that.
Well, you've been doing a great job so far. I don't know anybody in this space who doesn't have tremendous respect for you and the work you're doing. So,
that's very kind of you.
Awesome.
We respect for them as well.
Thanks so much for joining me on the Fire Break today, Leo.
Thanks, Steve. You too.
Yeah. So we've been chatting with Leo Zlimen from Ladris. I'm Steve Wolf. You've been stumbling with us through the Fire Break. We'll see you at the next one. Take care.